Alright, so in this video, I'm going to compare a couple of CBI programs. A lot of you have asked update on the Argentina CBI, Citizenship by Investment. There was heavy buzz last year where the Argentinian CBI hit the headlines. And then the second big one is the Botswana CBI. Now, the reason why Botswana is so popular is because it's an actual safe and a livable country. Most of the other African CBIs are useless for most people when it comes to physically living in those countries. The passports are near useless, and physical stay in the country is near useless. So, what are you getting that passport for? Is just to have an alternate form of ID, a real citizenship, not a useful citizenship, but a real citizenship to create a redundancy, maybe a plan D or a plan E sort of an option. But Botswana is not like that. It may be a near useless passport. You wouldn't be able to pick up the passport and go to other countries where you want to. Getting visas is going to probably be very difficult, especially with the CBI situation. Most good countries aren't going to look at that favorably, in my opinion. And again, this is not immigration or legal advice. I personally feel CBIs are being heavily scrutinized. So, in that sense, it's a near useless passport, but the main selling point is going to be the safety in Botswana. So, that's why I think people are extremely keen on that CBI. In this video, I'm going to discuss some key milestones, what has happened so far, where are these programs stuck, and what is the realistic time frame to expect launch of either of these two options. I'm also going to discuss the price point. And before I get started, please do me a favor. If you think that this channel provides you with valuable information, then go ahead and turn that subscription on. It helps this channel grow and it helps me get you valuable content and on time. So let's first start off with the Argentina CBI. Now, what are the top potential hurdles that's really slowing progress down for Argentina? Now, the final operational regulations not yet fully published, meaning the investment thresholds, qualifying sectors, compliance structures are yet being finalized. So we need clarity on all those things. It's a slow process. It's a bureaucratic process given it's Argentina. So that is definitely stalling the progress. The second one is that the tender process for selection of master program operator is still being completed and contract award not yet publicly finalized. So recently there's been a heavy bidding war for this option. A lot of master agents are providing different tenders. It's a slow and a painful process so far. Everyone is bidding for this one, and the big players know the importance of the Argentinian CBI. We are yet waiting to see how many companies would eventually be selected, be finalized, and this is the master agent. There's going to be sub agents who are going to work with the master agents to get you the kind of discounts that you're looking at. Sometimes when you approach directly the master agent, they're going to give you the retail price, but when you're working with a sub agent, then you might get a discount if that sub agent has a group discount option. So they have a way of mitigating it. We got to look at the framework before anything regarding discounts can be spoken about. Creation and staffing of the new implementing agency and integration across interior, economy, immigration, and security departments. Again, this is framework related. Building internationally credible due diligence and AML, anti-money laundering framework to avoid the US and EU scrutiny. The moment there's any CBI program, any meaningful CBI program, the EU and the US are immediately going to pounce upon this option. So that's where it's very important for Argentina to make sure whatever design they put in place has to be compliant with what the US and EU asks for. If there's any data sharing requested, then that has to be complied with. Now, Argentina has been heavily trying for the US access. Now, I don't think they're going to ever get the US access given that they're going to run a CBI program. But even if without the US access, if they're running a CBI program, it better be in accordance to the EU and the US demands. That's what most of the Caribbean countries have done. And given the closeness between Milei and President Trump, I'm expecting there to be a fluid exchange of information from Argentina to the US, meaning if there's any US citizen who is purchasing this program, then there potentially could be data sharing to make sure that there's no laws that are being broken in the US. So we got to check the framework to see how that's going to proceed. Certain part of the framework is hidden, not always publicly disclosed, so there could be a mechanism behind the scenes where this exchange of information process could take place. The next one is the political risk due to reliance on executive decree rather than the full congressional legislation. Now, if this goes through the Congress, there's going to be hurdles, there's going to be the opposition to this, right? A lot of people don't want to see the CBI program. So, all of that, in order to bypass that, there needs to be an executive action that would push this forward. So that again could be seen as a hurdle. Banking channel readiness and correspondent bank comfort with a new Latin American CBI program. Now, there's no CBI program in Latin America. Argentina, if it launches this, would be the first country to do so, and therefore the banks have to be ready for this type of a new program. Usually in the Caribbean, the banks are already, they know the process, it's been there for decades, so it becomes easy. The banks know what they're doing. For any AML related risks, the banks are ready, but in Argentina, that new framework has to be deployed. Reputational positioning, Argentina has no prior CBI track record. If they process hundreds of cases, thousands of cases, it only takes a couple of bad cases to spoil or screw up the reputation of the entire CBI. They don't care if there's been a 99% track record. 1% or 2% mess up and the whole thing goes for a toss. There's extreme scrutiny and eyeballs, and all the blame goes on the country for letting these rotten apples pass through. So, again, that is also one of the hurdles. Now, what are the major milestones that have been accomplished so far? Now, if you remember, in July 31st, 2025, there was a presidential decree, and this was one of the very first channels to report on it, formally established the legal basis for the citizenship by investment framework. That's when it all started. In December of 2025, not too long ago, on December 5th, there was an international tender launched to appoint the master program operator. And just as of last week, in January 2026, the tender submission window had closed. There were a few big firms that were competing and fighting for submitting this tender. They all want to win this tender because Argentina is a big program in the CBI market. There's going to be a lot of takers, a lot of people interested in the Argentinian process. What's really going to be critical is design the program properly. It should make sense, and then people would definitely consider this as an option. In Q2 2026, expected contract award and beginning of technical implementation phase. Now, once the vendor is finalized, that's when you can start drawing out or design how this is all going to look, how they're going to partner with each other, how the intake is going to work, how the funds are going to flow, or what checks the vendor agency is going to partner on with the government. So there's going to be a vendor level due diligence, and then there's going to be a government level due diligence. Normally, the vendor or the master agent level due diligence is extremely crucial because that's where they catch most of the rotten apples. So all of that needs to be put in place. Mid to late 2026, if everything goes well, and typically in a country like Argentina, there could be hiccups, right? Because the infrastructure is not in place. It has to be designed from scratch. But let's say the projection, as per the projections, mid to late 2026, IT systems, compliance framework, and marketing infrastructure build out phase would start. Predicted launch, a realistic assessment, I would say soft launch Q4 2026, a full operational launch Q1 2027. Any launch before Q4 2026 is unlikely given procurement and institutional setup timelines. My personal prediction is in the first quarter of 2027, if this program has to go live, the soonest possible is going to be the first to the second quarter, so mid of 2027, we should see this program go live if things go fine, if there's any hiccups or if something goes wrong or if there's a big objection or we don't know, right? So US could hit heavily. They could simply say nope. EU could say nope. So collectively, if there's tremendous amount of pressure, then maybe this could get stalled, and then we're looking at a 2027 to a 2028 timeframe. The other big question is Argentina ready to lose or risk the EU access? Now, for whatever reason, if the EU access is removed, or let's say removed for CBI citizens through the ITAS program, then this is going to be more like the Turkey passport, where it does have some important access, but it may miss the EU access for CBI citizens. If you are subscribed, I promise you, you will be notified as we get closer. The next one is the Botswana CBI. I already discussed why this program has so much attention. It's really the ability to physically stay safely inside Botswana that makes it so much premium. What are the potential hurdles? Constitutional and citizenship law amendments required to formally allow broader dual citizenship. Now, they did make exceptions for dual citizenships last year, just last year. It's very new. And there are approximately 300 odd cases that are applying for that dual citizenship or have obtained dual citizenship as per the new updates. Now, this has to be formalized across all streams, including the CBI process. Parliamentary approval process and regulatory drafting is still ongoing. It has been a slow process given this is an African nation, given that there's going to be internal resistance to this program. All of this has been slow. Finalization of program regulations, including qualifying investment options and quotas. There's no clarity on that. Even the price was a range between 75K and 90K. There was no final clarity on the price, so all of that has been worked out. Now, yes, for marketing buzz, someone might throw a 75K, but what does that mean? How much is the additional cost? How much is the due diligence fee? What is the agency cost? All those things need to be worked out. Establishment of a due diligence unit and third party background screening framework. That's not in place yet, so they're working on that. Administrative capacity constraints with immigration and home affairs departments, because the home affairs has to eventually work with the entire broader team to get this completed. Economic pressure from diamond revenue slowdown affecting state bandwidth. International compliance scrutiny. EU and UK scrutiny towards any new CBI program that has to be taken into account. What are the major milestones so far? September 26, 2025, there was a memorandum of understanding signed with an international advisory partner to structure this program. In late September 25, there was a public announcement of intention to launch the CBI program. That's when this hit the headlines and created a buzz. Q4 2025, draft amendments to citizenship law was introduced. In early 2026, which is just very recently, the legislative review process still continues. It has not been completed, so it's an ongoing process. What is the predicted launch date of this program? The earliest possible predicted limited launch is being projected at Q2 2026, so by June or July. They're saying that they're trying for this. A more realistic operational launch is estimated at Q3, Q4 2026. I personally don't feel before the end of 2026 we could see any progress on this program. Early launch of this program in 2026 has already passed. We are at the mid of the first quarter of 2026. They said by the start of 2026 this would be launched. It has not launched yet. I don't think we are too close to the launch by any stretch. In the most aggressive manner, if let's say we predict an aggressive launch to this program, I personally don't think before the end of 2026 we could see this go live. But again, a lot of things are at play here. A lot of things need to happen. The vendor that has been finalized for this program, they need to be aggressive with the government, because the government could take their own sweet time and this could keep pushing forward. There's been a lot of marketing that has gone into this, so the sooner they start, the better it is. Overall comparison as of now would be Botswana is legally more dependent on parliamentary approval, so that is the biggest hurdle with this program. Argentina is operationally dependent on tender finalization and institutional setup. Both programs are behind original public expectations. Neither program is fully live in February 2026. For Argentina, I would say Q1 2028 if the EU and the US agree to the way in which this program is designed. For Botswana, anything before end of February 2026 would be too aggressive to imagine. What are the better CBIs to consider at this time? I think the only two CBIs in current times really make sense. One is the Turkey CBI. I'm not a big fan of Turkey. I wasn't a big fan of Turkey. But now that with the new ITAS expectations, if the Caribbean passports are going to be useless, if that happens, then Turkey is the only realistic option that makes some sense if you're looking at a property based investment CBI. Otherwise, I think the top favorite remains Vanuatu because it has some advantages. The biggest advantage is a fast process, quick citizenship, less scrutiny. Exceedingly, more and more clients are looking for less crazy due diligence. You don't want to kill yourself proving yourself, giving too much information. It's all about information privacy. That's also become a very important part of any program. Vanuatu understands that, values that, does not share too much information like some of the Caribbean programs do. So in that sense, I think that still remains the number one program in 2026. If you're not yet ready to grab a CBI, it's too much, it's too expensive for you, then what's really interesting is the 100% remote PR, permanent residency in Vanuatu. A lot of people are looking at that program as well. Before you go, let me know in the comments below which program are you desperately waiting for. Is it Argentina? Is it Botswana? It'll be nice to hear your comments, your thoughts. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and catch you in the next one.